All right, thank you, Commissioner. Honored to be here. I don't take this for granted. There's only 16 of these spots that we get to hold and come up here. So I have a lot of appreciation for that. The Commissioner's been phenomenal. He just mentioned going into the 6th year, and he's been great to us. Keith Carter and Chancellor Boyce hiring us 5.5 years ago, and the Ole Miss fans in Oxford, and how, as he mentioned, a lot of personal things there, and how awesome it's been. It's really been an amazing 5 years, personally and professionally, there in Oxford, and I reflect on that like life, with so many good things of gains and losses. With my daughter Landry being there, and now Knox and Layla living there, really is amazing. He mentioned, and he kind of broke it all down, my brother and his 4 kids living there. It's really amazing. And then with some losses there, of now losing both parents in the last year, has been very challenging. But just thinking on the way over here, about my mother and how grateful I am to her, and it reminds me of coaches' wives, and to all coaches' wives in all levels, how you really are the glue that holds everything together in these families, with coaches like my dad that worked so much, and the moms doing everything at home. And so just really grateful to both my parents for that, and feel like they spent a lot of years and spent a lot of time taking us to a certain level. And I think when you're now experiencing that, which is strange, of losing both parents, that you're really the highest on the family tree now of what's left. And what that means about, they go next door, and I don't think they leave you. I think they go next door and they allow you to go to the next level. And just coming off of a couple days with family and with Chris's kids, and whether that was dancing with my nieces at Morgan Wallen, or then yesterday out on the boat and seeing all the cousins playing with each other, and how proud my parents would be of that. And just really, really cool to see things through a different lens now, and awesome that there's so many Kiffins in Oxford to experience everything together. Where I think of our program, where we're at, and the last 4 seasons there, since COVID, and 3 of those 4 seasons with top 12 finishes. I believe in the last 55 years of Ole Miss, there's been 4 top 12 finishes. So 3 of those to be in the last 4 years, 1 in the previous 51 years, I think says a lot about what we've been able to do through the staff, through the players, through everybody involved, especially the leadership above me. Over that time, the 3rd most SEC wins of all 16 SEC teams. That's helped us tremendously. When we got there at Ole Miss, we had to sell to recruits, hey, when you come here, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to win. We're going to have first-round picks. We're going to have the most players drafted in school history. We're going to win 11 games in a season, win 21 games in the last 2 seasons. And so now that we've done that, we've seen that impact, whether that's in transfers coming in or high school kids, that they've been able to see that. And especially with Mississippi kids, to stay home, knowing that they can achieve and get all these things that maybe previously they needed to look to leave for. Okay, the 2025 team, I think we have a lot of really good players coming back. We added a lot through the portal, and it's been a very competitive offseason. I think that the groundwork of these last players over the last few years, what they've laid, what they taught the players, has been very beneficial. Like we say in recruiting, you get what you see with us. There's not fluff in recruiting. We don't put on this show, and then all of a sudden they get there and it's a different thing. And I think that that's really helped us over time, for us not to have many kids that are playing leave and go into the portal, and for other kids to come to us because they know that. And a lot of that is to our culture and to our staff. So to be able to keep our entire staff from last year was very critical. That's not been the case a lot of times in our years at Ole Miss. We've had to replace a lot of really good coaches. I think we've done a good job of putting together this roster, working within this cap. You know, if you go back to retention of last year's players and then the portal guys in December, January, you know, we went into that operating under this cap because, you know, we were told the settlement was most likely going to get approved and how that would work. So, you know, we get a lot of questions like, what's it like now? Well, we have under this cap guidelines of what was coming and what it was going to look like. So I think we've done a really good job of that. It obviously means you can't sign as many players as you'd like at times because you have a budget. So we're obviously hopeful that, you know, that'll be rewarded by doing that. I think it's obvious people aren't staying within that cap. So I think the whole thing will be what does that look like? And that's what we don't know. You know, what does it look like when you don't, and what are the punishments for that? Do you win and then that comes later? So that's remained to be seen, but I've already got the questions about the cap and what is that like now having to do that. We've been doing that for a while.
So I want to talk about friends. I also want to ask if you would help us highlight and enhance the rivalry between your two close friends, Sarkisian and Smart. Who do you think is going to take this field next year? Does Sarkisian have a chance over Georgia? And how can we look at it through your eyes?
Well, I think that's those are the two premier programs and premier coaches in college football, and so I think they do an amazing job. You know, having both of them, being at both of them at Alabama, and to see how they've used that, and then being with Sarkisian at USC as well, and how he's used Pete Carroll things and implemented there. I think they both do an amazing job, and really in those SEC meetings, you know, you're always listening to the coaches and their input. And I feel like both those guys really run their program truly as the CEO, and they know everything that's going on, and they're very creative in their ideas and how to navigate through this world we're in now. So I think they're both really good friends, really good people, and phenomenal coaches.
Coach, we'll go over to the other side, over to our left on the aisle, about midway back.
Jonathan Williams with the On Inside Network. You guys had some big wins last season, but still came up just short of the college football playoff. What is it to you that makes playing in the SEC a lot more difficult, or more difficult than other conferences?
Well, I'm flying over here. I read the commissioner this morning and things that he said, and thought there was something in there interesting when he talked about the 9 games versus 8 games. You know, and then people say, well, this conference plays 9 games, this plays 8 games. Well, I don't think there's anybody that would trade their 9 games and want to come play our 8 games that you play down here, and the places that you play down here. You know, you guys that have covered the SEC for a while, you can have teams that aren't even having a really good year for them, but you got to go play at their place down here, and it's just different. So scheduling here in this conference and what you do week to week, and then the NFL draft shows that too. Those are the players you're playing against, and it's so balanced throughout the conference that every week you got to really show up. It's really like the NFL. And I don't feel like that is the case in these other conferences, or a really good conference similar to us that's top heavy but doesn't have the middle and bottom the way that we do.
Okay, we'll go down the center aisle, right on the...
Hey Coach, Emily Grace McWhorter from the Next Round. At this point in the year, what is your personal focal point that you are emphasizing the most, along with the expectations for your players and staff members?
I just think that we basically restart each of these last few years because the turnover is so much in college football, which I wish it wasn't that way, and it shouldn't be. You should be able to build within your program and have a lot of returning players, but it's just the way the system is now. Hopefully that gets fixed because I don't think that's really good for anybody. It's not good for these kids to go to all these different switch schools every year. So it just makes us restart and not expect that they know anything because they're coming from all these different places.
Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side.
Good afternoon, Coach. My name is Dylan, and I write for the Daily Mississippian. You mentioned that Ole Miss had 3 10-win seasons in the last 4 years. So what core elements of your culture have driven to that level of consistency, would you say?
Well, I think we've had really good players over that time, really good schematical coaches that have helped that. So I think that those usually are the key factors there of playing really well. This last season, we led the SEC in scoring offense and defense. That's really unique to do, and I think that to me shows how good that team was. We played 13 games. We won 10 of them double digits. Not one of those games was really close. And then we went 0-3 in 1-score games. So that does to me show how far we've come as a program to be able to have games like the Georgia game or going to South Carolina and have a game like that.
Far out.
Hey Lane, Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. When did you get over getting left out of the playoff?
That wasn't that difficult. I mean, it is. I tend to do better with things when they're done. You can't do anything to change them, So it was what it was. I just think, not to go back over that too much, but just in general, and there's been a lot of talk about that since. I just think the system, and it's not because of us, I just think the system doesn't take into the scheduling properly. And then since then, as you look at these other sports, basketball, baseball, you see teams, that go on to win that weren't in the top because they played a really hard schedule, and you lose some games. Just like the basket goes in or out at the end, doesn't mean you're dramatically different than that team. Just like, you lose a game in overtime, doesn't mean on the road, so, or the NFL. You see these times all the time. You go to the Super Bowl, and here's the 5 seed in the Super Bowl. So I just think that it doesn't account to that. And being a coach and understanding what teams take to go into certain places to play and have to get up every week versus other people's schedule, it's very different.
Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side, about midway back. It's right behind you, sir. There you go.
Thank you, Coach. Hunter Dawkins with Super Talk Mississippi. Last year, your ground game wasn't usually what you have done with your offensive system. Is there going to be any improvement on the way that you guys develop the system, or just talk to me and give me your take on what is going to happen, at least from the running back room?
Yeah, our ground game was definitely disappointing. That has been something we've done really well over our time for a long period of time, is run the football. We weren't able to do that at times that were critical in these losses. All of these 3 losses, we're ahead. 2 of them were basically ahead the entire game, and just need to kind of, in 4 minute, close games out. And that's where we've been really good at that. I think that was year before, maybe we were 4-0 in 1-score games, I think. And then we go 0-3. So, we've signed some different linemen. Our running back room is a lot different. And so hopefully we'll be better.
Coach, we'll go over here on our left-hand side, about quarter way back.
Coach, right here, David Rumsey with Front Office Sports. You mentioned the current cap in college sports, and you've spoken about its salary cap before. Now that revenue sharing is underway, do you think college football should and can have a hard salary cap?
Well, I think that's what's being attempted. It doesn't seem like that's working very well. So yeah, I mean, I'm stating the obvious. That was the intention of what was going on, because there was so much complaints when NIL started and everything about, okay, everybody's got different advantages and different payrolls, and we saw those a couple years ago, and I was up here at one of these joking about there should be a luxury tax, because of A&M spending or whatever it was, so then that was supposed to be being fixed, and now it's not. So again, we've tried to follow these guidelines because that's what we were told we needed to do. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not even saying they're wrong for doing it. If the system isn't solid enough to prevent that, then we really don't have a system. And then so you're not operating in a salary cap. So.
Coach, we'll stay on the same side over on the far aisle, right there in the middle.
Peter Rodriguez from Mail.com. It seemed like in the past week you've had a few tweets tagging or directing at Hugh Freeze. Was curious what the message or thought behind some of those posts were.
Well, someone said that coming in here to me. I like Coach Freeze. So I think they think that was something to do with, like, I was fishing and it was golfing. That really wasn't that. I have a thing with him going back a few years ago when he, posted a picture in response to me of some 2-pound bass or something like that. So I've kind of always posted bigger fish pictures back towards him. So that had nothing to do with his golf game, which sounds like he's doing amazing at that. So that's great for him.
All right, we'll go to the front row right here to your right, Coach.
Lane Kiffin.
And I was fishing yesterday as a dead period, by the way. Just making sure they were clear on that. If you want to say fishing is like golfing, it's dead period.
Don't want to interrupt the fishing conversation, but Caleb Saylor, Super Talk Mississippi here. Lane, over the past 3 years, people got to know a lot about Jaxson Dart, both on and off the field. Well, you got Austin Simmons poised for year 1 as a starting quarterback. Ahead of this fall, what do you think people should know about Austin, both on and off the field?
Yeah, they're very different. I mean, if you look at them, how they throw right hand, left hand, that would basically be about everything about them. Is everything's that different. So, and that's okay. And Austin's got to make sure he doesn't have to try to beat Jaxson. And Jaxson wasn't Jaxson, the third-year Jaxson, until he was the third year. So he'll be fine. He's got elite talent, does a really good job. He's maturing. Obviously did a great job when he came in the Georgia game. And so we're excited about it.
Coach, we'll go right here in front of us to the left.
Hey, Coach. John with On Texas Football. Early this season, you played Tulane, one of the tougher Group of 5 teams out there. What do you remember from your last matchup with them? A close game in 2023. And do you think scheduling these tougher out-of-conference games is more beneficial or detrimental to your team with an already difficult SEC schedule?
I think Tulane has great players. They play really hard, just like a lot of Louisiana kids, and their new staff's done a really good job. We had a hard game down there with the previous staff, so I think that it'll be a really big challenge for us.
Do you think there's a chance it could kind of level the field a little bit to make it more competitive in the league?
Well, I think it was really level last year. So I think that in general, my guess would be you're going to be leveled out for a while, like the way that, whatever you want to call it, this supposed cap works in some ways, and some people following it, and so now some teams go out and they kind of go way above the cap way above what you would think they would do if they were monitoring their cap on a specific player. So I think because of that, now you're seeing more one-offs where the player, 5-star player that traditionally would go to these couple schools now goes to this other school. Well, it's kind of like something's up, right? They're getting more money, obviously. So I think it's going to level out a little bit if this is the direction that it's going, to where you're going to see not all the players be stacked up at the top at a couple schools.
Coach, we're going to go all the way to the back near the TV set in the back of the room.
Hey Coach, this is Reagan Scarda of Inside Arkansas. To bounce off the couple questions before, coming off an historic season, not only for the Rebels, but for quarterback Jaxson Dart, do you feel as if there's an extreme amount of pressure on Austin Simmons to fill those shoes?
I think there is. We try to work with him on that, and that he has to be himself and, not worry about that. But I think with that, whenever you follow somebody that's had a lot of success, most wins in the history of the school, most yards, most touchdowns, basically everything, that puts a lot of pressure on you. But we have to help him with that. We got to coach and play really well around him. Is the biggest part of helping him with that.
Okay, we'll go straight down the center aisle, just to the right.
Carlo Brown, WCBI TV, Columbus. Lane, you lost a lot of players, both offense and defensive starters, especially, multiple wide receivers, quarterback as well. As a coach, how do you adjust when you've lost, and be saying it lightly, just a few players?
Yeah, we lost a lot of really good players. Most players drafted in the history of the school. So we've replaced them with a lot of new players, and that's kind of the world we got to live in now, with the portal and how it works, and how many kids go to a place for a year and then leave. So there's not as many kids being developed to take on those roles at places. So I think that problem's probably happened a lot around the country and is going to continue to happen. So it just is what it is.
We have time for a couple more. We'll go over here on the front row to our left.
Coach Dave Shumate from SEC Unfiltered. You being an offensive guy, but I know you guys have lost some guys in the back end and that secondary. In today's college football environment, what would you consider numbers-wise a proper depth on the back end? And you bring up the salary cap. In your opinion, what would be a proper punishment for people who go over the cap?
First thing about the secondary, we got a lot of new players back there, and Pete Golding does a great job with that. We had the same problem 2 years ago. We'll just find the best ways to put them in the best positions to make plays. I don't have the answer for the punishment on the cap, because it's not even, I can't even say that, because it's like, here's the cap, but then here's these other contracts, and are those going to get passed, and what if you go over on those and that system with Deloitte? And so I don't think we even know. And is it even going to happen? You got these states passing laws where looks like you can't even enforce it. So what are you going to have? Like the NFL, like, hey, these divisions, you have a cap, but then NFC Central, you don't have a cap, or teams in Florida, you don't have a cap, so I don't know that.
Coach, we'll take one final question over here to our left, second row.
Hey, Coach. Steve Moulton, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Good to see you. Wanted to ask about your time in Oxford, this being year 6. Where do you think you've grown the most in Oxford?
Yeah, it's been an awesome time. Not to kind of dig too much into it, but even this weekend with family and stuff, and just losing our parents, and you just can't. You got no idea what's going to happen. I was talking to our kids about that, and I was like, okay. For instance, I was at Alabama. We played at Ole Miss, and one summer I went and visited my brother out in this neighborhood in Oxford, and I was saying to his wife, well, whatever that was, 10 years ago or something like that, what if I was to tell you that you're going to go to all these jobs, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be the head coach of Ole Miss, and then you're going to be here, and your kids are going to be here, and then Layla, Knox, and Landry are going to be here, and there's no way. But then our parents are going to be gone. So it's just been an amazing experience, and I just have so much appreciation. I'm not saying it's coming to head coach. I don't give you coach speak. The people of Oxford, and then when you lose your parents and you see how they are and how they help take care of them towards the end, or how much they really cared about them, it opened my eyes to a totally different way. It's basically, I went to Oxford, had this view. Then I got kids there, so then I had a different view as a parent there, and how awesome the community is to raise your kids in and to have them go to college and high school around these families and really take care of everybody. Then you see your parents at the end and lose your parents, one kind of expected, one unexpected, and to see how the community is around that, I owe so much to Oxford and the people there. It's just been awesome.
Coach Kiffin, thank you for your time this afternoon.
All right, guys. Thank you.